Welcome back to another Swans Cast podcast, everyone. And we've got guests coming quite often at the moment, especially during the World Cup and the off season of the Swans. And I'm delighted to be joined by Jonesy, as it says on the screen, or Jack Jones, as some of you might know him as, part of the band Trampolene, who obviously local to Swansea. For those of you that might be aware, they recently opened in Swansea Arena, so the brand new spanking venue we got at the seafront. Jack was the one that opened it up for you all. So thank you very much for joining me, Jack. I'm really excited to have you on.
Oh, Luke, it's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
To talk to you. I've had your beautiful tones soothing me many nights now. So it's nice to. I'm sorry to bring my own tones to it, but there we are.
Don't be silly. I've heard your poetry. You're definitely going to be soothing a lot more people than I am. But I'm very nice to hear that you actually listen as well. I didn't realize that. You didn't know that, but that's really good to hear. So thank you very much. But we'll get into all the Swans because obviously you're a massive Swans fan and maybe even were within the club at some point, which is something we'll discuss later on. But I do want to open up with what you're doing at the moment. Obviously, you're part of a band, Trampolene. I did tell you beforehand, like I wasn't fully necessarily aware of everything you're doing with the band until I started doing a bit of research, obviously with you coming on, and opened my eyes a little bit. I quite enjoy some of your stuff, and it looks like you're really on a good trajectory upwards at the moment and some exciting stuff going on. So we'll get into some of those things that you've done from when you started and to where you are now with your fourth album. But first of all, I just want to introduce one of your newer singles, called Thinking Again. You can maybe tell us a little bit about that in a second, but I want to play for the audience a little snippet, if you're happy for me to do so.
I'm very happy for you to do that, Luke. I'm very appreciative as well.
Yeah, I listened to this song the first time the other day when I was prepping, and it's now on my playlist, so everyone can have a little listen. 30 seconds clip coming your way.
She's got me thinking again. Red mud, black flood, warming us up in cold blood. Red mud, black flood, warming us up. Oh, oh, oh.
I really enjoy that drop to the chorus. I had to get it into the clip, to be honest. It's like my favorite part of the song, I think. But yeah. So do you want to tell us a little bit of the inspiration, how the process of writing, or like how did Thinking Again come about?
Well, I think lyrically, it was. I started meditating recently.
Okay.
After I had COVID, I was pretty rough, like with my mental health for the first time.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people were probably. And when you start to learn to meditate, you start to notice your own thinking. And then I was so the song was kind of, I was thinking, oh, it's a bit like you're thinking about thinking, and you're thinking about thinking, then you're unmaking the thinking, you're unmaking the unmake of your thinking. You know, it was just all this kind of process. So that was kind of what the verses were about, and she's got me thinking again, and all this kind of thing. But then the little drop bit that you're talking about, the red mud, black flood, I was actually at a friend's house, actually Pete Doherty's house, and in France, and we were just sat watching CNN, and it was just round and round and round. We just watched the news. Goodness knows why. It was either that or The Simpsons, and there was like one bit about climate change and how the world was falling apart, and like they said, and it actually said on the news about the red muds and the black floods, and I just literally took it from the news bulletin.
That's crazy how you get like, you just everyday stuff like watching the news and you get an inspiration for lyrics. That's I just like, obviously I'm not really musically like that myself, don't do any songwriting, but like to think like that, like it's quite cool.
That's a sweet way to put it. Yeah, I'm the bane of a lot of my friends, and
it's quite creative, isn't it? You're just always thinking like outside the box with everything you're seeing in front of you.
I like to I just basically think about it as a kind of having a huge bank of like things I can always go to if I'm looking for a little space that needs a word or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I'm always writing and always collecting, I suppose, as a way to describe it.
And I think it's quite relevant now. I was going to touch on the poetry later on, but I'm guessing your sort of love of poetry and that sort of thing as well helps with maybe songwriting and lyrics, and it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I would say they do go hand in hand. I would say at the beginning of my songwriting life, I suppose, or life in songs, I was much more about kind of the melody, and I really struggled with the lyrics. Actually, it was I used to repeat a lot of phrases, and usually found it very rigid in what I was doing. It was difficult for me to change what I'd come up with on the moment.
Yeah.
And also when I first started listening to music and stuff, I didn't actually really listen to what the lyrics said a lot of the time. It was more about the frenetic meaning. So at the beginning I was a lot more that way inclined. But then when I moved away from Swansea, it's a funny thing, like when I moved to live in London when I was 18, it's funny, the place where you've left, all of a sudden I started to identify with it a lot more.
Yeah.
And
because you're out of there, isn't it? So everything's different all of a sudden. So
yeah,
you're missing your home comforts, and then that's kind of what was made you.
yeah, absolutely. And then I started to realize after I moved away that one of the things that I remembered most about my life was Dylan Thomas, and about how his words were everywhere.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, it was like I hated it actually. When I was growing up, I was like, "Oh bloody hell, who's this?"
Well, in school.
Yeah, like, you have to like, who is he? Whatever.
English lessons and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really was like, I had enough of it. I was like, thought this is rubbish. And I think he went to Bishop Gore, didn't he? Or I don't know if it
so.
was. Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Somewhere local,
which is the same school I went to. So I don't know. But then I just started to find, I was a young writer, if you will, trying to find my way out in the world, and I didn't have any footsteps to really guide me.
Yeah,
I felt like there was not really anyone from Swansea who'd been alive recently that I knew was living the life that I was kind of going for.
Yeah.
But when I looked at history, I could only really find Dylan Thomas as a kind of anchor, I suppose. And then when I started to read his words, I would notice little bits about Swansea, and then all of a sudden I was counting syllables in rhymes. All of a sudden I was reading bloody Shakespeare. You know what I mean? I went so method actor on it, and I was it now. It's the way I identify with the world.
I think it's brilliant, to be honest. It's and I think, well, I had some of your stuff on Spotify. I listened to a bit of the stuff you did in the arena, and it definitely comes across, I think, in your performances from what I've seen. But I think that adds to like maybe your band's identity a little bit, and you're from Swansea, and you're kind of taking a little bit of that into what you're doing as a band.
Yeah, that's completely. That was I'm not sure how intentional that was at the start, but it seems like completely the right thing to have done now, because
yeah,
I was very, at the beginning of the band on the first album, I was very determined and focused. I wanted it to be a band, like a rock and roll band with spoken word as well. I thought that's cool. That's what I am.
Yeah.
That's what I am. And if I am myself to the nth degree, at least I'm putting it out there, being me, then people can either love me or hate me. And I was actually a bit scared at first about putting out the poems, and I was a bit nervous because I didn't want them to have any music with them at all. I was like, there's a phrase that Dylan Thomas used to say all the time to his actors, the radio people who would say his plays. He would say, "Love the words, love the words," and so it was like when everyone would say at the beginning to me, "Oh, why don't you put some music over that poem?" I'd just be like, "No, love the words, no, love the words." So I was quite, maybe a bit too tunnel visioned, to be honest, at the time. But when you compare the first album to the fourth album, but I think I'm going off track here a little bit.
No,
but
it's fine. It's all a journey, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
it's your journey at the end of the day. And if anyone does go and has listened, if they're already a fan or does decide to listen, perhaps they can see some of your journey and how you've changed through the albums with what you're trying to say now.
Yeah, exactly. And also, the first poem I put out was a poem called Artwork of Youth, and it was about all my friends I went to school with. And my mum was mortified by this poem. Absolutely mortified.
I've got a feeling I've viewed this one. Is it where you name drop a bunch of people and you say all the little...
Yeah.
I was listening to that. Yeah, I can understand why she was mortified.
She was like, "How do you expect me to go to Tesco? What if I see Alex Wilkins' mum?"
What about all the other mothers? How did they manage it?
Yeah, I'll have to hide in the fruit and veg, she said. But
that's brilliant.
But in the end, the people who were in that poem, I haven't spoken to them all individually, but over the years, as the poems kind of got more infamous, I suppose, that people from it have come forward and said they thought it was funny, and that kind of stuff. It's trying not to be offensive. It was just very real, I suppose.
I think it's one of them, though, isn't it? Like, you're not there to offend. You're talking about your life a little bit, your experiences, your childhood, and I guess, I don't see any reason why you need to be offended from it. It's just a memory, really.
Yeah, completely, and that's hopefully where it's settled, because at the beginning, I was a bit nervous about coming back to Swansea and getting my head kicked in by.
I'm sure you'll be coming back, as like a bit of an icon, and it's only going to get better for you, I'm sure, as you continue to progress in your career. Now, you're talking about the beginnings, and obviously some of your early work there. So I do have a question, because obviously you called Trampolene. I believe there's a little bit of a story behind the name.
Yes, there is. I really wanted a band name with 3 syllables, because we were lots of other. We had so many other band names. I mean, and I didn't feel like I'd really picked any of them.
Fair enough.
And
you picked the one that stuck.
Yeah, eventually. And with this one, I knew I wanted, like, some of my favorite bands had like 3 syllables, like the Beatles or Oasis or Nirvana. I noticed that they were all 3-syllable words, and this is kind of in my obsessive poetry, reading, counting stage, which is probably leads a lot into OCD, which is I struggle with a lot, my counting and the poetry. But anyway, that's another thing. The name, and I was reading a book by a singer that probably not many people will know, a guy called Julian Cope.
I don't think I know him.
So he was in a famous band in the 80s called Teardrop Explodes, and he's a famous kind of like, some people think he's like a casualty of acid, but he's I think he's some sort of like kind of maverick genius, basically. And I like bands that take their names from like songs of other bands and other artists, like even Radiohead is a Talking Heads song, and he I thought that he was a bit of a cool cult figure to try and bring some attention to, possibly. And we had a list of we picked, there was a list of his song titles, and a list was given to me by a journalist. Actually, he was a really, really close friend of mine, and almost like a I don't know, like another. I suppose he's been a spiritual guide and a bit like a dad sometimes to me. A guy called Pete Perfides, and he had like a list of these song titles, and on it was, one of them was Trampoline, and the other one that Wayne wanted to use actually was Lunatics with Fire Pistols.
Slight difference.
Yeah, but so we weren't sure what name to pick, and we were fighting it out for days and days, and then we walked into a club one night, like a cool East London, kind of in Dalston, which is this kind of hip area of London, which we didn't fit in at all, but we used to hang out when we moved there. And we walked in, they were playing Mr. Kite by the Beatles, and the first line is, "Da-da-da-da, tonight there'll be a show on Trampoline, by Trampoline." And then the three of us walked in as he said it, and we looked up and we were like, okay, the name has to be Trampoline. John Lennon's telling us. So then from that day on, we were Trampoline. And there was no stopping us, really.
No, that's great. I think having an origin story for you, the name of the band like that is pretty cool. Again, as to the identity and your story again, which for me is quite interesting. I've only obviously looked at it the last couple of days, but really intrigued now. So I just want to ask then, there's a couple of you in the band. Yeah, and I believe the drummer left and come back as well at one point. So I was just going to ask, who is in your band with you? How did you meet them? I did see, was one of them a link with football as well?
Yeah. So the other two boys, we started the band together with the lineup that it is now. And so that is Wayne Thomas, who plays bass, and Kyle Mr. Williams, who plays drums, piano, and violin. And wow, how would I? So yes, we started the band when we were probably about 14, 15 maybe. And it does link into football because I met Wayne first. So I was let go of Swansea City academy probably when I think it was under 15. So yeah, I was 14, and a lot of League of Wales teams, I think, kind of look at those players.
Yeah.
So what happened to me was I was let go by Swans, but I was scouted by Swansea.
Oh yeah.
So
across the bridge.
yeah, exactly, across the bridge. So, and I was obviously devastated when the Swans let me go, and but then this guy, I think he was called Billy Morris, I remember, and I was feeling like an absolute a dog, feeling really bad. And he said, "Oh, they don't know what they're missing. You're a great player. Come and train with Leslie." And I was like, "Okay, great. I'll come and train with Leslie." And at this time in my life, I was having trouble in school, a lot of trouble in school, and I had just been expelled from school for jumping on my art teacher's car in my boxer shorts, screaming that I wanted to be a woman.
What was the car?
Oh, it was a Golf, mate.
Oh yeah, I got a Golf.
Yeah, but I sat on the bonnet, and the bonnet just went.
Oh God.
And after she'd sent me out, I wouldn't draw Van Gogh sunflowers or something. This story became kind of infamous, and when I got to the first football training with Leslie, we were asked to pair up, find a pair or whatever. And the only other lad that didn't have a partner was Wayne, and he had somehow heard of this story about me. People were probably talking about it, and he was like, "Well, anyone who wants to I want to hang out with anyone who wants to scream on their art teacher's car. I'm down to hang out with them." And I was like, I took one look at him, and Wayne was like a beast of a man when he was 14. He hasn't grown or changed a bit. And he was like, he had hairy legs, and I was like, oh, great, if I hang out with him, I might actually develop into some sort of puberty. So it was a very symbiotic meeting. And actually, Wayne was a brilliant footballer. He was playing for Wales and Cardiff, but he actually preferred playing for Llanelli. So it was a strange one. He would play for them instead. And what would happen with Wayne was that he would just kind of do whatever he wanted in training, because he was like the best player. So I was just flattered that he wanted to hang out with me. And the other strange thing about him was that he was a bit of a punk.
Yeah.
Which is very unusual for a kind of football boy. They were more kind of into R&B, or some of them go Oasis and all that. But
yeah, it's like my PE lessons in school. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly like that. You're the same level as me probably. And he sorry, I totally forgot where I was then for a second. But he
said about Wayne.
Oh yeah. So he what was I going to say? Right, yeah, forgotten.
You were saying about him being a little bit of a punk.
Yeah. But he'd started playing guitar. That's what I was meaning. So he'd started playing guitar, and randomly, when that whole episode had happened in my schooling, my father, who I wasn't living with at the time, was had bought me a guitar for Christmas.
Wow.
And he'd said something on it. I heard school isn't going so well. Maybe time to think of an alternative career. And obviously, I'd never touched the guitar, but Wayne was really into playing, punk songs and into NoFX and all these kind of things. And he said, "Oh, do you play guitar?" And I had just said to him, the guitar was in the house, but I'd never even touched it. And I said, "Yeah, I play guitar. I'm brilliant on the guitar." and then he said, "Oh, really, really great. Yeah, well, why don't you come to band practice? Can you play Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine?" I said, "Yeah, I could play that. I play it all the time." And then he said, "Oh, great, because I've got I have a little band practice, little crew gathering, on the weekend, and come down, we can play some music." So that was a Tuesday, and I got home that night, and I had to learn how to play the guitar and learn how to play Guns N' Roses by the weekend. And obviously, I couldn't learn that song in the first few days of my guitar, so I was totally found out. But that was kind of how I started to play guitar, actually, because I was just kind of desperate to be his friend.
I find it quite crazy how like getting kicked out of art classes resulted in where you are now in terms of your band and learning to play the guitar, all coming from that story that got to football training internationally. Like, that's mad.
Yeah, I've never even thought about it that way, mate. I've never even talked to anyone like this, actually.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And you're talking about stuff as well, like, the school you said you went to, people listening might be, quite relatable to that in terms of some of the stuff you're saying. Maybe they'll know the teacher, who knows, isn't it? But yeah. Maybe they've heard the story, if it's been
if they have
famous. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so your first band released in 2017, From Swansea to Hornsey, your first like full album, your first album,
yeah.
In that year as well, you also supported Liam Gallagher, I believe.
Yeah,
and the Libertines, or Pete Doherty, was it as well at times? Or you met them? Yeah,
that would have been. It might have probably just been. Would we have supported the Libertines? Yeah, it probably would have been Trampolene supporting the Libertines a couple of times, probably. I think probably first on a couple of times back in 2017, yeah.
I was just going to ask, like, about, this is perhaps your big beginning as a band and your big first album, like, any highlights, or like, what was it like during that time, and sort of how did you come to support these guys like Liam Gallagher?
So crikey. So I think our first single came out in 2013, and when we'd moved to London, we'd kind of like our flat, we'd like changed into this. We were obsessed with kind of Andy Warhol and his factory, and we thought, oh, you know what, we're going to go to London, turn our flat into some sort of 24-hour artistic hub. The living room was a rehearsal room. Poets were invited, painters were invited. Everyone was just invited to come and have a mad thing. We banned the internet, which was a stupid idea, you know. But because I would think to myself, it would have been amazing to have filmed that part of the journey, because it would, you know, it would have been totally mad.
So there's no nothing, no footage or nothing of any of that.
No footage. There's a little bit of footage because there's a guy who
broke the rules.
Yeah, there was a guy who saw us. I mean, we were like feral children. We were like, I honestly can't believe it when I look back. The kind of drive and determination I must have had to kind of go there. But we were playing gigs, and some guy was a documentary filmmaker saw us play. So, and he kind of became obsessed with us, and he filmed us. Crikey, he must have come round and filmed, you know, days and days. So there is footage of it. I just have no idea. Or how
get hold of that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And so what we kind of living together. We were putting these singles down. What we did, we had like mini albums, and we're kind of like going around London, going around places, just playing and playing and playing. And we thought we were being cool and mysterious by not having a online presence, when I think really it held us back quite a lot. When I look at it now, we should have just started building then, because as soon as you start building, the better it is.
I think back then it wasn't like, in hindsight now, you can look at how big social media is, and TikTok now, for example, is huge. If you knew that information back then, perhaps you wouldn't have made that same decision. But I can understand why at the time in 2013, it wasn't necessarily the be all and end all to be big on the internet, perhaps.
It felt like I still felt like it was all going to come crashing down at one point.
Yeah.
But crikey, it's gone the other way, like completely, isn't it? But
it's mad. You've got to be everywhere now to get any sort of like traction.
Yeah, and you're gonna. I mean, it won't be long until we're just inside these things, man.
Yeah, the VR and all the metaverse and all that sort of stuff. That's
Are you into that?
I look into it from the outside. I'm not like fully involved, but it's interesting to see where it's going. I think it's the early days, isn't it? It's like, oh, what's going to happen here? But
because it's something interesting on the tube. When I was last in London, they're going to use it in schools.
Yeah.
So they're going to, like, instead of like when you go to a history lesson,
you can be placed in the middle of the Tudors, like in VR.
They put you on, and you're going to be in the Battle of Hastings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're bloody going to remember that, aren't you?
Well, that's going to be quite bloody as well, I'd imagine. So.
Yeah. I think
that's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's so literally like be putting on a time machine.
It'd be quite cool. I mean, maybe that would, people who are not so interested in those sort of things will all of a sudden enjoy it.
I think that they'll make that's going to be a bit of a game changer for it. It might, because it's still on the fringes, the metaverse thing, isn't it?
It's quite interesting to see where it could go. I know they can use stuff in, like, they can practice in hospitals and stuff. The doctors can use it to practice surgeries and stuff, which is helpful.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good uses coming from it. I think it would be an interesting technology to watch. Maybe from a band perspective, you could do a gig from home when everyone's in the VR and watching live as a little bit of a marketing like thing.
Yeah, completely. I mean, that's maybe it. Your expenses would just get cut in half, wouldn't they?
Yeah. That's if you take that idea now, you've got to give the credit. Now, joking.
10% is yours, mate. 10%.
Yeah. But yeah, so in your house in London, you obviously got this big art. Everyone, artists, musicians.
So we have all this going on, and then eventually, I met Pete Doherty first. What happened was I think around 2015 we realized we had to come online. I think it was there, somewhere around there. And the first thing we did was started uploading videos to YouTube. So we had a couple of songs, maybe You Do Nothing For Me, My Bourgeoisie Girl, kind of the early kind of raucous Trampoline songs. And then we decided to start putting out the poems. So it was like, it was very, very confusing, I think, for a lot of fans at the beginning, because they were like, why the hell is this band releasing poems? It was like, didn't make any sense. And we'd play live and I'd start doing a poem and everyone would be like, shut up and play the guitar. And then this kind of thing. But what changed things a lot was, the views on YouTube were tiny, man. They were like 880, about 80 or 90 views, not 800, sorry.
It's tough on YouTube sometimes with the way it works with like
the algorithm.
Views. Yeah.
And but randomly, I think because the guy who was making these videos was a guy called Roger Sargent, who had done lots of photos of the Libertines, and I'd met him when I was roadieing for an Irish band called the Stripes. They would like just sign this big record deal, and they'd hired Roger Sargent to take their photos to get them in the Enemy, and this kind of, like, the Enemy was a thing back then. I mean, but so I met him and he shot some videos, and I don't think he sent them personally. He never sent them personally to Peter or anything. But what happened was Peter was flicking through YouTube, because he used to just love flicking through YouTube for hours, and somehow my poetry videos popped up on his feed. So out of the 80 views that had been,
he was one of them.
He was one of them, and multiple ones apparently as well.
That's the important ones, though.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then a few months later, I was invited to the Libertines were playing a show in the Dublin Castle in London, and in Camden, for anyone who doesn't know, in North London. And I was introduced to Peter. In fact, I just saw him. I was sitting on the curb, actually, outside the venue, not really sure what to do with myself. And he just came up to me and he started narrating the poems to me. So that
must have been like quite a cool moment to experience.
It was totally surreal, because I think the poem, it was Poundland, which he knew, but also a really obscure poem called Health and Wellbeing at Wood Green Job Centre, which is like 5 minutes long, like just about me talking, describing my life going to the job centre in Wood Green for years. And he came up to me and he was like, so open your eyes, picture the scene, it's the Health and Wellbeing Workshop in sunny Wood Green. And it was it was odd, really, because I was aware of his music, obviously, and I don't know if you can swear on this podcast.
Yeah, go for it.
But Forever was the first song I ever learned to play on the guitar. So it was interesting, and he invited.
Cool, it's quite a cool story.
Yeah, and then what happened was, I think maybe he saw a bit of his younger self in me, and in him, I saw someone who had kind of lived the life that not that I'd maybe wanted for myself, but he'd been he'd achieved the success that I dreamed of having. I suppose
somebody to look up to, that similar, and maybe give you a bit of direction, perhaps.
Yeah, and like, I never had a big brother, you know? And I think there's a lot of my relationship with Peter which feels like that.
I've seen some video. I think you were on something like this with him or so on YouTube, and seems like you have a really good relationship now. So that was like the starting point, and you've just gone from there, really. Then
he's absolutely hand on heart. I'd take bullets for him, knives for him. He's one of my friends in the world, and from there on, really, we just kind of we were going long drives across Europe, reading books, reading poems, writing songs, and that was really the start of our relationship, really. And he invited me along. Him and Carl actually invited me along to be the Libertines tour poet. So when they were doing their big tours, I'd come out on stage and I'd do like Poundland and Ketamine and Artwork of Youth, and to be a Libertine, these kind of new poems, and introduce the band. And then what happened was the poems became more popular than the songs. So then when Trampoline started playing gigs again, then people
the other
didn't
way around. Stop playing the guitar, start playing the poems.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone was really confused by that stage. I done if you had a business plan, like to try and make, it was probably the most poorly constructed. You know what I mean? All I'd done was confuse the hell out of my audience. But it was just being me, so I couldn't.
You've just got to be yourself, though, haven't you? I think that's what, at the end of the day, people want to come and listen to your work and see you do what you do. The best thing for you to do is to be yourself, because that's what you're selling. That's what makes you different from watching any other band and other musicians or anything. Is the stuff that you do that's unique. And what we mentioned earlier about all the Swansea stuff, the poetry, I think all combined, it makes you quite. For me, I don't think I know any other bands or musicians are in that sort of category or do something similar. So I think that is unique, and I think that's definitely something that sells you, really, as a band and as a songwriter or singer, musician.
No, that's sweet of you to say, man. That's really cool. I mean, you just go along and follow your instinct, and this is where we are. If that makes sense, we're here together today, me and you.
Exactly. Living the dream. Yeah. So obviously that's kind of like what was that? Sorry.
Do you want to go into the Liam? I suppose I've mentioned how we met Liam.
Yeah, go on. Yeah. Tell us about Liam, because I think, Liam from Oasis, isn't it? So I like back in the day, I think Oasis were quite big, and I know a lot of people still wanted to get back together, which perhaps it's not for us to say or whatever. Maybe you got insight on that, but it'd be good to hear how you managed to support on Liam Gallagher.
Well, so I think after all the Libertine stuff, and consequently, I became Pete's guitarist as well during this whole phase.
Yeah,
I'm still his guitarist as far as I know, actually, and that's like 6 years now. But so there was the Libertines thing, me playing guitar for Peter, the poetry in the band. There's a little bit of hype about the band. All of a sudden, before the album came out, 2017. So it was like people were starting to take a little bit of notice, I suppose, about the band at this stage. And this is where probably the most flukiest bit of luck ever happens. So Wayne obviously has got a job in a pub in North London, and randomly it happens to be like one of Liam's favorite pubs. So
that is big coincidence then.
So what's happened is and Liam's been going there for years, and Wayne's been working there for years. So even before Liam's great comeback, him and Wayne are very, not like, Wayne is Wayne. He's so like blasé about people, like famous people, even people he admires. He's very standoff, doesn't matter to him, you know what I mean? And I presume that maybe Liam respected that about him over the years that they've been seeing each other off and on in the pub. and then I'd met him a few times as well. Went up there and met him a few times, and it was just kind of nice. It was he was always really kind and really supportive, and then when he was, you know, doing his big comeback or whatever, he asked Wayne. He asked Wayne in the pub, literally, you know, would you be up for supporting me on the tour? And we were like, are you kidding me? Of course. So
can't say no to that, can you?
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure whether Wayne used to put on the music, the band in the pub, and Liam used to hear it a bit now and then. So he went up to Wayne and was like, is that your band? And he was like, yeah, that's right. And he's like, oh, that's cool, man. So I'm not even sure if that's true or whether Wayne made that up, but
we'll go with it.
Yes. So from there, and then I mean, I've spent quite a few nights with Liam, and he's a bit he's such it's a strange thing, because like he's I think depending who you speak to, a lot of people who know him would say he's like so different to what his persona is. You know, he's like unbelievably loving, like and kind, and you know, these just very zen like as well, very, you know, very calm, very composed. I remember we were all drinking in the pub, and we were all drinking shots, and we all had like shots of Sambuca, and like we all necked our shots, you know.
I hate Sambuca.
Yeah, and you'd sip a shot.
God.
And he would sip a shot for like an hour or so, and I was like, wow, that's interesting, because he stays in control, unlike me who drinks. And yeah, I mean, another thing is too, I kind of, my relationship with Liam, in that when I met Peter I wasn't drinking, and it was good because I was always very, very present for our conversations and or our work, if you know. But when I met him a few years later, and I was on the wagon, if you could say, or off the wagon, I don't know how to describe it. So like there's many a nights with Liam where it would have been nice to stay up playing songs, but or something like that, but I was completely off my nut, to be honest. And I was trying to feed like raspberries to his cat one night, and then the other night and then another night I was like playing guitar upside down with my head on the ceiling, and then you know, and then another night I was like walking out of his house, lost my shoes in his house. You know what I mean? It was like
we still talk to him after that, so it can't be that bad.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's all good. And I speak to his Debbie more, his partner, because she's kind of really helped out the band Trampolene, and Debbie and Katie, that is the two sisters, the Gwaithers, the powerful Gwaithers, that control the music world, especially the rock and roll end of it. But yeah, so I stay in touch with them mostly. Liam's kind of in his own, I suppose, in his own world, and it's hard to get inside that, really. It seems like only his girlfriend and the sister are the only people that really know that world. I would say.
But you had some good times with him to talk about. Some of the stories are quite fascinating.
Super kind to us. I remember, you know, loads of, you know, all those kind of pep talks about keeping going, about advice, you know, these things, and
paid off.
Yeah, exactly. And just, you know, just the fact when you get a kind of endorsement from someone like Liam, you get to even just to play a gig with them, it just opens up your world a lot.
Yeah.
So we had that happen with round about the time of Swansea to Hornsey, and then it got like really great reviews in Q magazine and NME. It was like, so it was a kind of a bit of a cult album, I think, at the time. Really, it was like number 10 in the.
Yeah, I saw that. The Telegraph indie chart or something like that.
Yeah, was like we've never troubled any until our third album. Actually, we'd never really troubled any of the charts, other charts. But this was like we were surprised to even see us in any chart. Do you know what I mean? It was like, crikey, didn't realize there was that kind of thing. But
yeah, well, the internet obviously. You need to, maybe for the fourth one now. Obviously we talked about the first one there. You've done two in between, and I want to perhaps skip a little bit, but you've got the new one coming out next year. I've got a little banner actually that will tell me. So your new album, there we are, Rules of Love and War, coming out. Is that March the 16th? That's the date I got given. That's correct.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh,
and you've got a tour coming in April as well. So I think I got some of the dates if you want to talk about any of those on this little document I got given. So going to places like Glasgow, Newcastle, Nottingham, Manchester, Leeds, Bristol, Swansea and London.
Yeah.
In your tour.
Yeah, that's
Swansea is Bunkhouse for anyone that is interested.
Yeah.
And that is on the 6th of April, which is a Sunday.
Oh, is it? I didn't realise it was Sunday.
Oh, well, there we are. Sunday the 16th of April.
Yeah, that's pretty much sold out as well. I'm doing a I think the ones that are pretty much sold out are London, Manchester and Swansea. And
you add more on after that, or is that kind of it?
No, I think the plan is loosely that we might do something in November after the festivals.
Fair enough.
We're doing a kind of independent music week tour in February as well, because we haven't had a chance to play for so long. It's like this is our first tour for 3 years now
because of COVID and stuff, is it?
Yeah, so it was we wanted to get out to as many places as we could really, rather than have like bigger gigs in just one place. It was like, let's see how many cities we can do, and just try and get out there a bit more.
Do you think you return to the arena maybe in Swansea? That obviously you opened the venue, so
yeah, that would be awesome. We'd hope to do that. I mean, we were talking about doing that maybe in November, or
I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, it was a mad thing, mad opening. We couldn't believe opening. We couldn't believe we had 2,500 people in there either.
Was it full?
Yeah, so they had I think because it was on the opening night, they had a capacity cap because it holds 3,000.
Probably had to test all the stuff was working and if there was an emergency and all that sort of stuff was
happening. So we sold it out at 2,500 and it was like, it was a big old night. That was.
It looked like a fun night from what like I said, I watched this video of it on your channel, isn't there, of your performance. So I'm about halfway through watching that at the moment. So I'll definitely watch the other half. But yeah, it looked like a great night.
Yeah, it was a brilliant night for us to.
And you wore your Swans top.
Yeah, exactly. I find it now. Like
that's all right. I haven't got mine on either. It's all good.
Yeah.
We're in World Cup mode at the moment, aren't we? So I mean, the Wales top's gone off now. So we'll discuss that later. But sorry.
No, I think that was it. That was more or less it. So that's how we got to know.
That's brilliant.
Not Peter, of course. Yeah,
that's really interesting. And I don't know, I could sit here and go into loads of detail about all of that, and maybe you can come back maybe around the time the album comes out and we can get into more of the music stuff, perhaps, if you'd like to do that. But I do want to try and go to the football stuff before you've got to shoot as well, because I know you want to talk about that, and it'd be really good to get some of the football chats. So before we get there, I do want to just ask, where do you see the band going in the future, and what do you kind of want to achieve? What are your aspirations? Now you are where you are now, is that maybe more than you ever thought anyway? But now you are here, where do you think you can get to? Where would you like to get to?
Great question, man. The first answer is I never thought we'd get this far. I'm totally, I had no idea what I was doing, for all the time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until possibly I met Tony Lincoln, who's our manager, when I was about 20, that I had any real direction of how to get anywhere in the music industry. So a lot of the things that I've done, I completely completely shocked by, even like opening the Bataclan, playing guitar for Peter, reopening the Bataclan, and there's just many things that I would have dreamed of doing. But as I'm right
you're
now,
not even that old yet either, are you? So like you've done quite a lot.
don't know, mate. Maybe I'm older than I look. But the what would I say? The being where I are now, what I'd like to achieve. I'd love Trampoline to be known as, or to be remembered as the kind of new age, great big new Welsh bands, because I think that like the Manics and the Stereophonics, that's just what people have said forever, and it's really, really boring to me.
Time for someone new to join the group.
Yeah, and I think that we're as good as them. I really believe we are. And personally, I've always preferred the Super Furry Animals anyway. But like, but it's like it's time that people just add a new band from Wales to really mention in the same breath, and that's where I would dream Trampoline to be. To be honest,
I think that's a fair thing to say, and I would agree. It would be nice to have a new, and you can do it. I think you can do it. Obviously, I've been honest. I wasn't fully aware before until this kind of started happening. The ball was rolling on this podcast, but I think you can definitely do it. I'm glad that I've really heard your stuff now, and it'd be nice to see where you go from here. You should have tried to get I don't know if maybe you did do it. I'm not sure, but a World Cup song for Wales, that would have been something.
Oh, cool to do. I would love to have done that. I mean, we've just spent ages learning Amaro Hyd.
Yeah.
We had to play it at the fan park. Yes, was that last night? Yeah, that was yesterday. Crikey.
Yeah. It's been a long night since then, is it?
Yeah, that was only yesterday. Yeah. Yeah, we have got a song that I wanted to it's called Together, and it's on the new album. It really could have been the new anthem for the team. But I'll have to write the next one, innit?
Well, next time Swans get to the playoff final, maybe you can
yeah, exactly. Next season, mate. That's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, get on it. Okay, so brilliant. That's great. Let's try and morph into the football stuff then, because there's obviously the link which we already discussed earlier on. You mentioned being in the academy. They let you go, unfortunately, and that resulted in the journey you've gone on since, which is the band. So I mean, good's come out of bad in a way. I guess like you never would have known where that would have taken you, but it could have been someone else. It could have been you out in Qatar now, but next to Gareth Bale. But I just want to ask then to tell us a little bit about your time at the academy. So there's a couple of things I want to look into here. So start off perhaps with when you were there, sort of what years you were involved in the academy.
Crikey, what years would that have been? So if we go from 92, when I was born.
So you played under 15s was when you stopped, was it?
Yeah. There was a guy called Malcolm Elias, I think it was.
Right. Was it like 2007 then?
Yeah, must have been that. Must have been around there.
That's probably but when coming to the end.
Yeah, so that would have been my last year as a Swansea schoolboy playing for the schoolboys, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So that would it would have been I probably did it from about 2002 to about 2007.
So just before we got to a couple of years before we got to the Prem, probably just got to the Championship or getting there under Roberto Martinez when you were let go.
I just found, mate, this is so random. There's a guy cleaning the windows.
Yeah, I just saw in the window. You can say hello.
I've never seen that before in my life. Look at that.
That's brilliant. I was like, I mean, that's good. He's never going to know he's on the podcast.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Well, maybe he watches and he'll see
the window raining so much.
Yeah, he watches and he sees the little brush and he's like, oh, it was me.
Yeah.
If it is you, put it in the comments and let us know. We'll say hello.
I thought it started raining, but anyway, so let's say it was. I always played for, when I was in the junior, I played for Mumbles Rangers.
Right. Okay.
And even though all my school friends went to playing for West End and Port Tennant.
Isn't West End the one that's always good?
Yeah, they're always
I feel like
brilliant.
they are still now. Like everyone talks to West End as the one to beat.
Yeah, the West End, they had all the boys I was in school with, Lee Maunder, Mark Neath, Nicky Walters, Nicky Pritchard, God, I can name the team. Will Witter-Jones, moved to them from Mumbles. And then they had the creme de la creme, which was Scott Thayer. I don't know if you've ever talked about him on the podcast, but
No, I think I've not heard of him, I think, to be honest.
he was a brilliant footballer. He was just a genius sportsman, to be honest. One of those boys who was brilliant at football and rugby. And he was captain of Wales, actually, I think up to under 18s or something. And he, I think, yeah, he was too good to get to for Swans. I mean, like you said, that time Swans weren't in the Premiership when I was in the academy. It was more. We weren't even. We weren't even
League One, end of League One to
it was
start
quite,
the Championship.
Yeah, and but he was he ended up playing for. He had everyone after him. I mean, we used to play games for the school, and he'd get boots sent to him by Nike. He'd have like Nike and Adidas
Imagine
boots.
that.
Yeah, he used to give me a pair to wear during the games.
Nice.
And he ended up signing for Tottenham, I think. And I'm not sure what kind of conspired. I don't know how his life turned out. You know, I seen him. I've heard that he was working locally, like somewhere in Tesco's or something now recently, and that it hadn't quite worked out for him. But mad to think that, you know, he was a Swansea boy, captain of Wales, 18s.
It's tough, isn't it? It's tough world of the football.
I think they thought of him as like a Welsh Wayne Rooney, I think, or something. So that was it. So I was scouted playing for Mumbles, actually, when I got asked to play for Swansea. There's another guy who was playing for Swansea, right? Something I can't even remember his name. I think it was Michael Golding, really tall, lanky footballer, really good footballer. And the Swans, he was on the Swans book, and they were like looking after him, and I was playing against him. And then they asked me to join. Me and another lad from Mumbles, a boy called Jamie Wales, and we both joined Swans together. And it was weird. We would, how would I describe it? We used to train down by the Elba. Do you know, in Gowerton?
Oh yeah.
And how would I describe my time there? I was always I suppose I was a bit. I was always very nervous when I played there. I much preferred playing with Mumbles.
You think it was pressure, like eyes on you watching?
Yeah, and you would because it wasn't a week in, week out playing for the Swans Academy. You still played for your Mumbles or West End, and you would go to the Swans thing like every now and then. If that made any sense?
It's different back then when they weren't, perhaps, with all the investment they've had now.
Yeah, it wasn't at that time. There wasn't like an academy league or something that we played. Yeah. So it was like a bit disjointed, and I was playing centre midfield usually, running around kicking people, and then but when we got to the kind of Swans level, I probably wasn't as good as a lot of the other centre midfielders, so I was moved to right back sometimes.
So you started as centre midfield and then sometimes slotted in right back.
Yeah, but then randomly when I started playing for Swansea, I was playing centre forward. So it was a bit of a strange bird playing there. But there was a guy called Malcolm Elias, I remember him, and he was kind of really high thought of, and he was really good with a lot of the boys. And he had there's another player, Rory Smitham. I think he plays for Swansea now, actually. He was a great footballer who was there in the same school as me. And we used to train, but we weren't really that. The academy, we didn't get that much time together, so it was a bit difficult, actually. And thinking about it now,
I think you were a couple of years too soon for the when the leagues maybe started to come in, and like they invested a lot, didn't they, when they went up to the Premier League and the youth set up, and I guess watching that afterwards, like if you're 10 years later, you would have been right involved in the middle of all of that.
Sorry, mate, my phone was got 20%
I was
back.
just saying, that's all right. If you were 10 years later, you would have been right in the middle of all of the investment, because they had the leagues, and a lot of the youth players came through, didn't they, after that? So
yeah, exactly. That would have been like, yeah. So when I think about it, it's like a interesting little moment to think about, because it didn't really feel like a very professional thing, like, to be honest. And it probably wasn't at that time. Like, I don't know. It was
still good to be part of, though.
Yeah, it was magic. It was really magic for me, and I played some great games. And what I preferred playing actually was Swansea schoolboys, because that was the boys from my school and all the other schools, and we had a really great team. We won all the cups, and that was like really, really. We had we had a hell of a team, and it's probably like what you think about all the kids your age will all be professional footballers, and none of us were. But I remember like the little training things we used to do, and actually this guy Malcolm Elias, I'm pretty sure he became like the kind of scout for the whole of South Wales, and then he became Southampton's main trainer, main like kind of youth scout, and that was how Gareth Bale ended up with Southampton.
Really?
He took him over there, yeah. So it was like a lot of Welsh talent, a lot of good Welsh players were going over to Southampton
because he'd scouted them.
Yeah.
Before. That's well. That's imagine Bale never got scouted, and he was a left back then as well, wasn't he? Which is even more crazy considering where he is now.
Yeah, it's totally mad. And because he did, Swansea, Cardiff, all these areas. So you had Ramsey, Joe Ledley, all these players were all scouted by the same dude, I think. As far as I can remember, that story is anyway.
Yeah. So I was going to ask if there was anyone involved in a setup when you were there that has gone on to make a name for themselves or play for the Swans first team, or anyone that you were with in the youth setup. There's
no one there that I know. There was a lad, like I was saying about Scott Thayer, who ended up signing for Tottenham. He was the closest to being professional, like Rory Smitham, as I said. He plays for Lech now. But there was another lad too who was on the bench. Oh, what was his name? I want to say his name was Chad something.
Chad Bond.
Chad Bond, that's it. Yeah.
I remember he used to be. Yeah, I used to play a lot of Football Manager, so he was definitely there.
Yeah. So Chad, good knowledge, mate. Chad Bond, love it. Yeah.
So he was around the same time as you then in the youth setup.
Yeah, he was a bit older, but he was around the same time. But then Wayne, who was playing for Cardiff, he was playing against Joe Ledley, loads of the Welsh team from that kind of era. Wales.
Ramsey, is it?
Yeah, Ramsey, all that kind of thing. They were I think they're a few years older than him, but he was in the same team as them. Yeah.
Pretty cool, that is.
Yeah.
What could have been? What could have been? But yeah, like it's good insight and good.
I love talking about these stories, man. It's so cool. I talk about this stuff. I mean, they just don't. There's never an opportunity to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, well, you're always welcome to come and chat any football year.
Oh, mate, this is so cool. And yeah, I'm just trying to remember. A couple of things that I remember that probably worth saying, which are kind of sad or cool. I can't remember how they would pick. What they would do is at the beginning of the season they'd have a new trial.
Yeah.
And so what they would do is just pick like there's the 22 best players in Swansea they thought they'd found or whatever. They'd play against each other 11 aside, and then at the end of the game, everyone would they'd ask everyone to sit on the floor, all the coaches, and they'd call out names, and so it'd be like blah de blah, stand up, blah de blah, stand up, blah de blah. And so eventually there'd be like 8 people stood up and the rest of you on the floor. And then my name wasn't called. And I was sat on the floor and I was like, oh, bloody hell, I haven't been picked, I haven't been called. But then like the guy said the names. I remember this. I thought it was shocking. And then he said the names and he said, look, I'd like to say sorry to all of you standing up, but you haven't been selected this year for Swansea. You can all, you can all, go back to your great ability. And for years and years, I was always the one who was sat down. Then the last season, then I had to stand up, and I knew that I was, I'd had a bad injury. I broke my ankle, and when I came back, it took me a long time to even get back. In fact, I had to change kind of what player I was. I lost a bit of speed, and and then they send you like a letter, then just saying you're a really gifted footballer, but sadly not the right. I think my dad's or my mum's still got the letter somewhere because it made me cry for about 2 weeks.
You should keep that as like put it in a frame, because that's what ended up changing your career to where it is now.
Yeah, exactly.
You should keep that forever. But yeah, that's a bit rough. That is for like all of you guys to that age to just stand up. Yeah, you're not good enough.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? My mate Jamie Wales, who's one of my best mates, he lives down the marina. Absolutely brilliant footballer, striker, and he was actually, we were going through the team together, and he was picked to carry on playing when I was let go. And then also he had trials with Leeds, wanted him to play for them as well. And this is when Leeds must have been
good. Yeah, when they were good.
Yeah, and but he couldn't be asked to go all the way up there for a trial. I was like, you're mental.
That is nuts.
He eventually just kind of was lost. I think he kind of must have just lost interest in playing football because he could have really done some damage.
It's a lot of effort and time commitment.
It's all about when you get to like 15, 16, those ages where it becomes about the graft, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I was never quite on. I played like at that period of, I think we're near enough the same age, but I was in Neath in school, so I played for a team, and it was the worst team in the area. Honestly, we never even used to turn up with 11 players. So we used to get dropped every week, but different levels. But I did play a little bit, but never near any sort of scouting for any of this stuff myself. But there we go. I'll stick to watching and talking rubbish about what I see.
Well, you do that very well, mate.
Well, thank you very much. So yeah, I know you discussed a little bit about the academy structure back then was a bit different. Maybe you didn't have it wasn't as professional as it might be now with all the like lower league leagues they do. Not lower league, but lower youth grade leagues they do. Yeah. I was gonna ask, did you actually play against any big names or anything during your time, or was there anyone that you remember playing against? You're like, oh my god, I've played against such player, or is it not something that you really was exposed to that much?
Did I play against any big players?
Or was there any matches against Cardiff or anything like that you were involved in? That's always a good one to talk about. Yeah.
So Joe Ledley is the one I remember.
So, yeah, okay. Did you play against him? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like so.
Yeah. In fact, to be honest, he had me like he was fucking. Sorry to swear. He was
no, it's fine. Honestly,
he's an absolute beast. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's But yeah, no. Apart from that, he's the only one I can really say that I remember.
So you used to have matches against the Cardiff youth team, then, did you?
Yeah, we had, but we used to play a lot of. I mean, it was weird because of that time. We did a few against Cardiff, but it was mainly like weird places we played. Like we played like Northampton. We played against lots of League of Wales clubs.
Was there other teams the same sort of size, perhaps?
Yeah, I was like we'd play against. I don't really remember us playing against that many other teams that I really. I don't remember us playing against like, Spurs Academy or nothing. It was nothing like that. It was like always, like weirdly we play against Hereford or
it's probably like because it's the Welsh, Swansea perhaps weren't. We've only really had like money and been I wouldn't say we're a rich club, but we had a period perhaps we could have said that when we were in the Premier League. And I think all the luxuries that came with that is like the investment, as I said earlier, in the infrastructure, the training facilities, the youth system, and the involvement then in like the Premier League 2 league, which is the youth team league.
Is that they play now?
Yeah, where they do play the bigger teams then. So they've actually downgraded again now. So they were in the highest category when we were in the Prem in the first few years after we got relegated, but now they've dropped the category again. So I think we still play big teams, but in terms of like getting talent in, I think we perhaps get less people come in because of the categories not. I don't know what specifics you need for it, but it's a certain amount of money you spend on it. You have to pay for a certain amount of staff, which I think is the biggest thing we missed out on. They cut the wage budget, so they dropped the category down because of how many staff they let go. But then that just means when you got an offer from this team or this team, one's category 1, one's category 2, I think that's where maybe you miss out on some talent. But all of that stuff, I think, is all. I think Hugh Jenkins has spoke about it when we went up to the Premier League. One of his biggest things was making sure, because it's not going to last forever, so making sure the investment in the club, the infrastructure and everything around that is there from the ground up always. And that's what we spent a lot of money on. So hopefully in the future, anyone in your position now going forward is going to have more experience, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like it didn't seem like that long ago, but it did feel like a very different time.
I think it's just on the cusp of just before, honestly. I think I think it's crazy because it isn't that long ago, but I think football, money especially, has changed so much with football in the last 15 years. Yeah,
in the last 15 years, if we're talking 50, like what's happened with Swans in the last 15 years is mad, isn't it?
Yeah, well, League 2, League 1, Prem, and back down to Championship. So it's crazy.
And a League Cup in there, mate.
Yeah, League Cup, European tour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, let's get on to that then. Let's get on to your Swans memories and then a bit about this season. So, how long have you been a Swans fan, and what sort of got you supporting Swansea? Is it just the whole it's my local team, or was there more to it?
Well, randomly, I mean, I don't know if you say this on national television, right? But my mum and dad are English.
Right, that's it. Get out after yesterday. I'm joking. That's all good.
And well, they weren't together when I was growing up, but they are now, funnily enough. But my old man's from Southampton, and my mum's from kind of Manchester, Sheffield, or one of those two. I don't know how it kind of works, but
from two up in the Midlands somewhere, is it?
Yeah. and my old man, I didn't see him very much, but when I used to see him, he used to take me to see Southampton play, and I started to really kind of think, oh, this is cool. This, just football is cool, and but that was kind of few and far between. I needed more of a football hit.
Yeah.
So then he started taking me to the Vetch. So I was on the North Bank when I was.
Well, there we are. Then that's how it started.
Yeah, I was on the North Bank when I was. How old must I have been? I don't know, 5.
Causing carnage on the North Bank.
Yeah, 5. Take me to the Vetchfield, way down by.
You need to get a cover of that with your band. You need to sort that out.
Yeah, I think that would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that notes.
Get it down there. Get it down. I'll be all over that.
Yeah. So that was when so basically, and then since a little kid, it just gets ingrained in you, doesn't it? When you go to that game, or when you go to the North Bank, and it's just been forever. It's just how I see the world.
And I guess being involved then in the youth setup just cemented that further. Then you are a Swansea fan, you're a Swansea boy, and all the rest of it. Okay.
Yeah, and my name's Jack Jones. It was like I was bent.
Yeah.
I was so Swansea. It was like the most.
Swansea Jack, and then such a Welsh surname.
Yeah, exactly.
Couldn't make it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so started following from the age of 5. So
yeah,
that's
I remember a game in the Vetchfield where Eric Cantona was playing. Do you remember that?
I don't personally, but was it?
It was a testimonial for Ryan Giggs.
Oh, right.
And I think you'll have to check it out. It was mad. I mean, I don't think actually Gary Cantona turned up in the end, or Ryan Giggs didn't turn up to his own or his own. I can't remember what it was, but there was some sort of famous match where like they had kind of like big celebrity players on the Vetch field. Have a little look, see if it exists.
I'll have to look into that. Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't aware of that one, so that's something if I can find the details, I'll quiz Lee on it because he loves all these. I love to quiz him on. He started following before me, so mine's a bit later. I told it before on a podcast, but my parents went into football at the time. I lived in Neath, and I started delivering Evening Post newspapers when I was 13.
Oh, really?
So I used to just look at the back pages and just see the Swans all the time. It was when we were going up from like League 2 to League 1 under Roberto Martinez. So like Jason Scotland, Trundle, all them on the back.
I met Trundle yesterday.
Yeah?
Yeah, he just posted a picture of me on his Instagram.
Oh, I'll have to have a look in a minute. But like I say, I just spoke to him. He's all right, he is.
he's an absolute belter. I love him to bits.
I played football against him.
Oh, is it?
Up in five-a-side, I play football, but
really? What, by Cumdee?
Yeah. Oh no, not Cumdee. That one's not there anymore.
Isn't it?
Like DVLA up there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's outdoor ones up there.
Wow, is it really? Where do you play then? Every week?
I don't anymore. Unfortunately, the team's not there. But we used to play five-a-side, yeah, and it was seven-a-side actually when we played against Trundle on the bigger pitches. Absolutely rinsed us. That's for sure. Yeah, I used to love it. Be like, oh yeah, Trundle's playing. We're going to get him today, and then keep it tight. Half time, it's like, oh, they're only 2 goals ahead, so we can do this. Come on. Next thing you know, it's like, oh yeah, they're 10 goals ahead now. He just turned it on like I couldn't get near him. Yeah.
What a superstar, man! I can't describe. I mean, it's like he was brought up. It's like he's born out of Swansea Bay or something. I don't understand.
And he's like so Scouse. This is mad, isn't
it? He's loved more than any Swansea lads. I just don't. It's mad, isn't it?
It's crazy.
I think he doesn't have that affection from the English that he deserves, and
I think he's unlucky in the fact he never got to the Prem, did he?
Yeah.
I think he's got the also, he's probably a bit unlucky that he came before social media because his trickery and all his street football skills, if you like, now would be really big on, and he is kind of like labeled as like a football league legend in a way that he does all this trickery and the skills. But I think if that happened now, with social media and the internet and football being how it is these days, I think he'd definitely be a little bit more well-known.
Premiership player, wasn't he? He's like. And he was so good for us, wasn't he? He had the passion and the skill, which is sure.
He's one that I think he should have at least had a season there, to see what he could do. That would have been good.
Yeah.
No, that would be brilliant. So you're speaking about Lee Trundle. I was going to ask you who your favourite players from growing up then, from when you were 5 to now.
Well, Lee Trundle is hands down my favourite, like by a mile. I mean, especially after meeting him yesterday, it was like meeting a god yesterday. Yeah. And I put my head on his chest. His chest is huge.
Did you sing a song for him as well?
No, I didn't sing a song. I was too
give him a poem. You should write a poem about him.
I would. That's a good one, actually.
Who's your favourite player?
Yeah, my favourite footballer. I loved Alan Tate though too. He was great.
Team of Alan Tates and all that.
That's what you need, isn't it?
Yeah. So Trundle and Tate, what's your best moment from Trundle then, if he is like your all-time favourite?
Probably that ridiculous goal, when he's like turned it round and just bashed it in, the kind of like when he it. That's why I was talking about his chest, because he's like,
is that why you put your head on his chest?
Yeah,
you're like, oh.
Yeah, that was what he can talk when he did that thing, and just like, it was like I don't think I'd ever seen a Swansea player do something like that. I think that was the thing about it. Like, they were all... I mean, I obviously wasn't around for the Alan Curtis days.
they would bring it down first and then have a shot, whereas he's doing it both in one action, kind of like
Yeah.
setting up his shot already before he's even brought the ball down.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, we never had a player that really excited you.
Yeah.
Like you really believed in, who just like, he just, I was like, I couldn't understand why he was playing for Swansea. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, how is this happening? It's like a bit like sometimes people say that about Trampoline. They're like, why aren't you like #1 in the chart playing arenas all over the world? I'm like, I don't know, it's where I am. I don't know, but I bet he thought the same. Like, why am I not playing up front for Liverpool or whatever, you know? So it's like,
yeah, he got his move to Bristol, didn't he? And it didn't quite go go well for him, unfortunately. But I'm sure, I feel like he's happy with how his career went, and he obviously comes back here now all the time, ambassador, and he obviously loves the place. So it's always really good to see that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I forgot about Bristol. Yeah, it's a funny one.
I'll have to try and see if I can get a catch up with him on you at some point. But I did tell you I did have. You might remember from when you were at the Vetch. Or you might not. I don't know. I had Jason Price on you a couple of weeks ago.
No way.
Yeah.
Like I absolutely remember him.
So that video's up. You should go and if you want to go listen to that one.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah, he was up here telling about his stories. So yeah, JJ is that I used to call him.
When Frank Lampard played.
Yeah.
When would that have been? What year would that have?
Lampard? I want to say like 2003, but I could be wrong. Might be before.
Yeah.
Google will tell me.
I saw him hit the crossbar. I remember he hit the crossbar in a game. He didn't score, but he hit the crossbar. But I thought he was rubbish.
It was not 2003. I got that completely wrong, by the way. It was like 95, 96.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's what I thought, because
9 appearances, apparently 1 goal. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's what Wikipedia is saying, but I don't know if it was a league or maybe a cup or friendly or whatever. I don't know, but
yeah, that can't have been that old. Can't have been back then. Could it?
Must have been like one of your first.
Yeah, that must have been like the first time. Because in my head, no, that's mad. That would have been like the first games I ever saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I didn't see that. Maybe I'm just tripping.
Just remembering from what people have like.
Yeah.
Okay, so favourite players, we've done a bit of that. Alan Tate, Lee Trundle. What about from the current squad? Anyone that stands out for you now?
Oh, Mac, innit? Matty Grimes.
Oh, me too.
He's such a player, man.
I think he's just from some quarters of the fan base. I think he's so underrated. Like people just don't appreciate what he does.
Yeah. I think that he'd be amazing in the Premiership as well.
Yeah.
Although I enjoy being in the Championship.
I'd like to see you with us.
Yeah, exactly.
With us. I'm glad no one's come sniffing for him yet. I'm surprised actually. I thought you would have gone the last couple of seasons.
And me, because it's like, I mean, we had a good run, didn't we? Like up to the Cardiff thing. It was like we were flying up the table. But how would I say? I think he's just got that bit of quality, really, and a bit of that. He
just controls the game for us, and everything we do well comes through him. And I think there was one game where he had a match suspension, and I think everyone actually noticed then. That's the most I've seen on Twitter, where people have been like, "Oh, actually, yeah, we actually can't play when he's not there." Like, we weren't necessarily winning the game before or whatever, but you just notice the difference in what we're doing out on the pitch when he's not there.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see people are giving that recognition, because I've been saying for ages, like, you say he passes sideways, backwards all the time, but that's literally what he's meant to do. Because our game plan is to make space, and you wanna drag the other team around, get him out of position, make the gaps, and then he can find people through the gaps. And that's his game. That's what he's there to do. But he's also got 5 assists this season, which is our top assister. So the whole argument about backwards, sideways doesn't quite stack up.
Well, no, I don't think. I just think he's great. I just I've only been to see one game this season. What game was it? It was a 2-2. No, I think we lost, actually. I can't remember who it was against.
There's been a couple of 2-2s where we
let
either bottled the lead or like came back from behind.
Yeah, no, we bottled it.
Was it Millwall where they scored 2 like right at the end?
No, it was. I think we lost actually. It was 1-0 and we let in 2 at the end.
Blackburn, we lost 3-0, I think.
Um,
oh no, you're saying we lost 2-1 then, is it? I can't
yeah,
remember off the top of my head.
unless we drew 1-1 and they scored in the last minute, and it felt like a loss. It could have been that one.
It's probably been a couple of them.
Yeah,
it's been quite a few late goals this year.
Yeah, I know. We are the. What is going on? Like, we need a sports psychologist. Like, we need a sports psychologist.
They had one of them before in the Prem, didn't they? And then they got rid of him.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, we're playing some really not bad football, man. Like, and we're not far off the playoffs, and if we get in there, you never know.
When did you go and see? Was it recent or was it early season?
It was early season, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Regardless, if you don't get to see that many, then I take it because you're traveling a lot.
Yeah, and we're based in London, really.
Yeah.
I
tried to go to the away games then.
Yeah, I haven't even. To be honest, I haven't been to an away game for years and years. Because it was. I mean, it would have been. Was a time when me and Peter were sat in West London, and it was QPR versus Swans.
Yeah.
We were doing a gig, and we thought, oh, we'll go and watch the game. We'll get this gig done out of the way, and we'll go and watch the game. And we could hear the QPR goals going in. It was like they lost like 3-0, I think. And then we could hear them, and I was like, I'm not going, mate. Get away. You can go on your own. So we just kind of like hung around outside listening to the shouting. Like, it was quite funny. Anyway, I'd like to go more. I mean, it's one thing that I would. My old man's got a season ticket. Loads of my mates got season tickets, and I would love to go down a bit more actually, because it just makes me happy, like, to see the boys. And
you should try it. There's usually tickets available at home these days.
Yeah, exactly. And when I always last game I watched, I was in the opposite end to the Jack Army, so I could just see them shout games. So like, it'd be nice to go in there with them and just to.
But yeah, that's the best place to be for the atmosphere, definitely.
Yeah. Where do you go when you?
Just well, it depends. I work quite a lot on the weekend, so I miss quite a few games. But when I do go, either if I get a ticket from Lee, if like his dad's not going, he sits kind of above the player tunnel. And then I've got my father-in-law that goes with a couple of people. So if there's a ticket with them, they sit same stand but in the corner, other side of the end to the away end, the other side. Otherwise, just wherever there's a free ticket.
Yeah.
So kind of. I used to get tickets from my uncle knows one of the players, so I used to get tickets up with the players' guests, which is usually in one of the corners as well. But just anywhere really. I haven't really got a set seat. Just kind of go where I can. I'm not that bothered either. I prefer to be a bit higher up, but it's all good. The stadium's not too bad wherever you sit, I find.
Yeah, I think that too. I mean, I'm not too sure on the name, man.
They changed it now, haven't they? Swansea.com Stadium.
Makes me sick a bit, to be honest.
There we are. You need to get the Trampolene Stadium.
Yeah, that'll be the one, won't it?
Yeah, I don't know how much they charge you for that, mind, but
yeah, it'd be like the Jack Army or something. I don't know, or something. I don't know. I didn't mind. I know Liberty was the same thing. It was a company, but it just didn't seem like
better though, didn't it? You didn't. A lot of people just wouldn't have known that it was a company thing.
Yeah, like
kind of just got away with it.
I'm like, wow, come on.
The .com just
wrecks me.
Yeah, that's what gives it away. It's like, oh God.
Well, why does it have to be? Why? Like, why? Why do you have to do that?
Like a Martin Morgan's company or something.
I
think it is something to do with him anyway. But it's all money, innit? It's all money. That's all it boils down to.
Yeah.
What about then going into this season? We've obviously discussed some bits and bobs. You mentioned we had some good form. We have dropped off. We had a good run of wins, so shot us up the table because I think the start of the season was a bit rough.
It was. But we won 7 out of 9, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. We went on a really good run. Ended with that win against Cardiff, which was fantastic, and that's 3 in a row for Russell Martin. No goals conceded.
Yeah, that's amazing. 3 in a row. We were playing a gig that night, actually, in Cardiff, and I went up.
In Cardiff?
Yeah. We were supporting Jamie Webster, in the Great Hall, and I went up there and I got three in a row, and they're all going, "You Jack bastard, you Jack bastard."
Were they all? Did they all? Was the Cardiff fans in there? Did they hate you?
Yeah, they hate me, but they love me as well, which is odd.
Well,
I'm not playing a
yeah.
song. They hate me and abuse me, but when I'm playing a song, they don't like me.
That's where you need to take me to the vet shield out. That's the night you wanted to pull that out.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably would have been able to run away.
I probably would have been crucified there and then. Something, wouldn't it?
So yeah, after the Cardiff game, I don't think we've won a game since.
No, we've drawn loads, haven't we?
Only one defeat.
Drawing games.
Yeah, but only one defeat. So even though we've fallen off, we're not losing all of the games, which I think is important. So we need to try and pick back up. But I was going to ask, do you think we can maintain a playoff push? We're actually on the same points as sixth place, even though
yeah, I think.
Do you think we can get there?
Yeah, I think we will. I actually really like the manager. He's grown on me loads, and I think that he's had a bit of time, and you can see the mark slowly getting on the team. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think if we just got a couple of pacey, it depends if we get anyone in January. I know it's a classic thing about you.
What do you think we need? Where do we need to strengthen in your view?
The wing. I think we just need some bit of pace on the wing,
the wing backs, is it?
Yeah, I think if we had a bit of pace there, and I know good old Piero isn't firing like he was.
No, 5 goals I think he's got, which is nothing compared to last year.
Yeah, so I think if we got some, the defenders we got are really good. They're just really young, so it's they obviously they love making the odd mistake, and I think they'll get much better. So I don't think we need to get anything there. I just think we need to. If we got a bit more pace on the wing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a big problem is playing and I'm not criticising Latbodia, but he's not a wing back.
No, he's slow. Too slow.
It's just he works hard, right? I can understand he works hard, but we need someone there that's going to bomb up the wing, take people on, and cause some trouble and create some opportunities. He gets himself in good positions sometimes. To be fair, he's just not tricky on his feet, and the animal's got the end product. But that's somewhere where I just think it's costing us, the way that we play in. You've got Manning on the other side doing a fantastic job. I just think if we had another man in on the right back side, because I don't think Soronuno's been the best either, that's somewhere that I think we really need to strengthen to try and maintain this push.
That's what I think if we got that sorted in January, and then, I don't think we're going to get a new striker. I do feel like we could, I don't know, but maybe if we got that position sorted, maybe Piero would start scoring more,
What about Obafemi? Do you think his head's been turned by Burnley?
Mate, how can you get your head turned by Burnley, mate?
Ask Connor Roberts.
I know, yeah, exactly. What's that about? God alive, crazy. These people on drugs,
To be fair, maybe it's Vincent Kompany and he's manager now.
Oh yeah, I didn't realise. Is he managing Burnley now?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know, mad, isn't it? It's his first season there, but crazy. And Jack Cook's still there as well.
Is it? Oh yeah, is he really?
Yeah.
God, I always kind of watch the Swans players that leave. I always follow them a little bit, It's always interesting to see how they get on.
Oh, yeah, Connor and Jack are there. So yeah, I just don't think he hasn't been firing as much as what he could either since the whole transfer thing happened.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, okay, it's over for now, but now January's going to open. I can't actually see there being interest based on his form, but if there is, are we going to have the same sort of shenanigans? Or
Yeah, pointless shenanigans,
But then there's a problem. We got to cover that position, but then because he hasn't been firing, should we have just let him go? Because it's not like he's done the business, and we're not going to get the same price perhaps now.
Yeah, there is that too.
Hindsight, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But there's I think that there's the players that we need are out there. Just sometimes, I'd like to see us spend a bit more cash, or.
I think a lot of Swans fans agree with you there.
It's I don't know. It's just It was a funny moment, wasn't it, when we started the American thing kind of happened.
Yeah.
And when we were a bit of the laughing stock of the Premier League, and we had Bob Bradley.
Oh God.
With his PKs. Hey, it's a PK.
It was a good game when that 5-4 against Crystal Palace. That's like one of the like highlight Premier League games for us. Not for the not for the right reasons, but in terms of the spectacle of that match for the neutral.
Yeah, that's true. That was a bloody mental game. It was like a hockey game.
I know. Crazy. I was at a wedding when that was happening, and we were like, "Oh, Swans are like 3-1 up." Yes, okay. We weren't allowed to watch the football. It was like a strict rule. Nobody can put the football on. It was while food and all that was coming out. Yeah, so we were all trying to sneak the result. 3-1 up. Oh yeah, so it was fine. Like 10 minutes later or something, 15 minutes later, someone's like, "Swans are losing." We were like, "What? No, they're not. They're 3-1 up at home against Palace. 4-3." I was like, "What the hell? What's happened here?" And then like 5 minutes later again, and it's 5-4. I was like, "Oh my God, why am I at a wedding?"
Yeah, that was absolutely the one. I remember the games against Man City too. You know, those are great games.
The ones with Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah, after we went down, was it?
And we had in the cup. in the cup, in the FA Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the biggest injustice I've ever seen in my life.
It just drives me, my heart drives my heart into the ground, and then like just buries it so deep it'll never be found again.
I don't know what I think of VAR altogether, how it's working at the moment, but if there's one game I wanted VAR, that's the game.
Yeah.
Because we would have been in the final, I think.
Oh yeah, of course there was. Yeah.
I think we would have. I think it was Brighton or something we would have had in the next round. And at the time they were struggling.
Yeah.
I'm convinced we would have got to the final. And you know what? It was something like Watford or something would have been playing in the final. So it was on. If we beat Man City that day, which we should have, you know, if it wasn't for some bad decisions, I'm convinced that we could have won the FA Cup.
Yeah. Then we could have had square flags on our pitch.
Yeah.
Triangular flags.
A little bit of Twin Town reference, is it?
Yeah. If anyone doesn't.
Cup.
Everyone must have watched Twin Town on this channel, man.
Well, I would like to think so.
If they haven't, oh my days.
Hot dogs for tea and all that. I had a hot dog yesterday, actually, in town, in the Christmas stalls. Very nice.
Well, I'm doing like a special secret gig. It's probably not a secret anymore.
I was going to say, well, if you
in the bunkhouse on the 16th of December, and it's like a 5th anniversary of Poundland, the poem. So we're doing tickets for £1.
Oh, nice!
But with a hot dog.
With a hot dog.
Yeah,
that's class.
Well, we just
is that sold out as well? The secret gig sold out.
It's not. We haven't. I think we're announcing it.
Okay. Well,
probably this week.
When is this? Well, I mean, it's not so secret anymore for anyone that listen.
Yeah.
It depends. What's going to come first, the announcement or when I put the video out? We'll see.
Oh yeah. Well, when are you going to put the video out?
Either over the weekend or early next week. I just put one out this morning, so.
Okay, great.
I might do it over the weekend because I think me and Lee want to go nuts about the World Cup on the next one, so we'll try and get that out next week. So,
what do you how many do you do a week then?
So we try to do a weekly podcast. It doesn't always go that way because of our work doesn't always line up, and my shift sometimes I won't get home till like on 9, and if he's on a busy week, he's like he can't really do it. So we try and do weekly most of the time, and then I try and do like a little preview series on YouTube where I try to get someone from the team we're playing, like another similar podcast from the opposition team. They come on and tell me about the other team, basically. But that's a shorter video. It's not a full podcast. But the podcast is generally weekly.
Wow. It's such a lot to do in it, man. Such a big effort.
Like I enjoy it. It's just, unfortunately, it's a hobby, isn't it? So life sometimes just gets in the way, or you work or whatever, and it's Christmas and I work in retail, so
yeah,
I can imagine what it's like.
Oh, crikey.
Yeah. Busy, but I'm off today. I was off yesterday, so feeling a bit fresh, and went for a haircut.
You look great, mate. You look great.
Well, I went to the hairdressers before we'd done this.
Not
specifically for the video, but I got my Christmas party on a weekend, so I was like, I better get a trim.
Good lad.
So I'll be out on Saturday.
Where are you going?
We're going in town. because I work in Llanelli, but we come into Swansea.
Oh, whereabouts?
In Trostra. I don't want to specifically name the location just in case I get any anyone coming to saying hello. But in Trostra. I might have dropped it in before, I can't remember. But busy shop, that's all I'll say, in Trostra. And we're coming to Swansea. We're going to like Copper Bar.
Oh yeah.
Which is like by Castle Gardens on the top on a corner, opposite Turtle Bay.
Yeah, that's where Pizza Express used to be.
Yeah, it's next door to there. It is.
Yeah,
it's next door to there. But we go in there and probably end up down Wine Street, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, good luck, son.
Should be a good one. Celebrate Wales's exit from the World Cup.
Yeah, we're going home, mate.
Okay, few more things on the Swans, but we will end soon. I know I've kept you ages now, but I just want to ask Russell Martin. And you said you like him, you like what he's doing. Do you think he can lead us back to the Premier League? And if we do you think he can like keep us there? Is he the guy to do it?
I think he is.
Yeah, because he's quite debatable in the fan base. Some people love him, some people not so keen.
Yeah, and so I can see that. I can see why too. But yeah, I think what I liked was how, recently with the World Cup and with it seemed angry, like about taking the Swans. You know what I mean? It was like players. It was like I think he's got a fight in him.
There was a bit of a animosity between him and Page, between the way that Joe Allen's injury was dealt with and the fact that Ollie Cooper didn't get called up. I was going to go to Ollie Cooper in a minute. But so he was... We had a bit of a rant to put it in a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and someone came in on me about that. I was like, well, I just think that's how it is, It's not sure that Page's relationship with the Swans and Martin is the best.
No, it seems absolutely diabolical. He just seems like a Cardiff scummer, to be honest, Page.
This is what I said, and I got called right out for it.
Time for him, I think he's crap. I think he's we should I think we should 100% be getting a new manager. He has no clue what to do whatsoever.
No, I mean, he got the job, didn't he? Because of the whole stuff with gigs, and then they didn't want to change it because they didn't know what was happening, and then he just kind of like got the job.
Yeah,
but I don't really know if.
I mean, look, what happened against Denmark in that Euros is a complete and utter example of how he has no tactical idea about anything to do with football. He only knows one plan, and if it's not going his way, he can't change it. He's like, it was a mess. That game should never have ended like it was, the Denmark game. It was just they made one little tactical change, and he had to make one to react to them, and he didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
he should. I mean, I can't believe we qualified for the World Cup, to be honest, because like,
not me. I didn't think we were going to.
The team wasn't good enough. It was, I mean, it was like nowhere near the team that was the 2016 team. It was nowhere near as good as that.
He's got a long-term contract now, hasn't he? So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I would love to see a change. I think, I know he's doing well, he's doing okay at Nottingham Forest, but I was thinking Steve Cooper would be a good option for next.
Yeah, that's great, wouldn't it?
And he would bring through the youth as well.
Yeah, he'd be great.
I think that's what we need.
He's not a manager, but I like that's when I started to like Russell Kane anyway, because he was I just saw a bit more fight in him.
Well, Martin now, yeah.
Russell sorry, Martin. Yeah. Yes.
That's all right.
That's kind of like, I don't know, I just saw a bit of fire in his eyes.
Yeah.
And
I do like the passion, like we was talking about now. He shows like he cares, and
yeah,
as long as you care and you put your all into the job, sometimes that's all you need,
But like, not just that, I think that I can see his plan. I mean, I can see the players, I can see the formation, I can see. Like I said, if he gets a speedy right winger and a new striker, I think that we could, I think we could do it.
Damage,
yeah. I
agree. I will say, we've not called him out, but as a podcast, we discuss the football every week, and rightly so. When there's criticism due, we give it, but then also when you need to give credit. Again, we'll give credit. So some of the stuff we mentioned at the start of the season when it was going a bit rough, he can be a bit stubborn, changing things that aren't working. But then he went and showed that he did change things. He brought Bender in for goalie. Ollie Cooper started coming into the team, which I think is one of the best things to come out of this season.
Yeah.
And afterwards, we're like, look,
been up, man.
What's that?
He should have so played, like, shouldn't he?
The World Cup, mate, we were nuts about it, honestly. I don't understand how Johnny Williams is sitting on the bench, never going to get any minutes of the World Cup. He's playing in League 2 Swindon. Why is he there? Like, I know he's historically been good for Wales, but you can't take historically good players when you get to the World Cup. Like, yeah, okay, you don't go very often, and these guys will never have the chance again, so let's just take them because thank you for all your service. You can't do that at a big event. You just can't. You've got to take the best team to get out of the group and to go as far as you can.
He would have been, I think he would have made a big difference.
Just the energy, isn't it, as well?
I mean, we were crap in the midfield. You know what I mean? Like, and he put on Joe Allen for 20 minutes against Iran when he could barely walk. It was like
controversial, but I said he should have gone instead of Joe Allen just because of Joe Allen's injury. Not saying ability. He's injured. He hasn't kicked a ball for 3 months.
Absolutely.
I think he should have gone instead.
And I completely agree with that.
I did the thing for the radio yesterday, and I said on the radio, I was wondering if anyone was going to come at me because I was like, do you think Joe Allen should start against England? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, he did all right yesterday, to be fair to him, but he was not ready against Iran. He was not ready against Iran.
No, I mean, he passed it straight to bloody whatever his face was, who smashed end, and he.
Yeah, and he gave it away for the second as well.
Yeah, it was like, oh man, Robert Page is crap. I don't usually like to down people, like, but he's just boring, man. He's like, dust it off, whatever.
Dust it off on the plane home.
Yeah, I know, innit? It's just like
damage is done now. I mean, to put it into context, though, you've got to have, in reality, it's good that we got. It is good that we got that. You've got to remember that. But what frustrates me is like the reliance on Bale and Ramsey, and then when they're not having a good game, why was Bale not subbed, for example, against Iran? If he's clearly not fully fit and he's not doing anything on the pitch, put someone on that can make a difference. You can't just keep him there in case we get a free kick or in case we get a penalty.
Yeah. Well, it's not just that. He just didn't play the formation correct to even help those boys out.
No, exactly.
He played, as far as I'm concerned, he did nothing right.
Well, this is a very, very anti-Page, but like I can't disagree. I don't mean to be like, all this thing about having pride and sure, we haven't been there. Sure, we punch above our weight, but all this kind of like, we want to win. Like, you know what I mean? People kind of. That's why I kind of enjoyed more about moving to London. Like when I like, not that there's negativity in Wales, but like you accept being like second best.
Right? Yeah, like no, I don't want to accept that, man. And like, I feel like Paige has that mindset a little bit, which is like
we're only little old Wales. It's good that we're even
here. Yeah, we did.
Whereas in reality, you haven't performed to your best.
Yeah, and the thing is, when everyone says that we're a little country, I say, look at New Zealand. Rugby. They got the best rugby team ever. We always go on about our rugby teams. We have not even half the size of New Zealand. And then, well, I don't actually know that for sure. I'm just guessing.
Welsh rugby is another conversation. I mean, what's going on there as well? That's another podcast.
Diabolical mess.
Page out, Pivac out.
Yeah, all the P's are gone. Like, get rid of the P. Okay. But they yeah, I don't know. I just think a smarter, no offense, more experienced manager would have got a lot more out of the team in the World Cup. And I think that he could have made us. Of course, we're not like we weren't a flamboyant side. Not got that much pace or anything. But he could have made us hard to beat.
Yeah,
didn't he? Just made us boring. And like, oh, come on, mate.
Yeah, it was nothing like.
The best thing about the World Cup was the fans.
That is important, though, I think, to say, because they obviously highlighted our culture, the Welsh way.
Yeah,
and
like
there's been a lot of people talking about our anthem being so strong when you see it on the world stage compared to the other ones, and that's really good to have put out there, I think.
Yeah, that makes me proud, man. That's like, you know, it just knocks me out. Like there was in the first game, I think the USA game, it like the camera cut to this woman who's like crying. She was blonde.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
whoever
it's
she
everywhere on social media.
Yeah, whoever she is, I love you. Like she was just, she did more for me than, you know, those kind of moments. And it's funny because of social media and because of the way the world is, those moments can mean just as much to you as an actual match now. You know what I mean? It's like interesting.
Definitely. Well, you know, I hope all the fans went out there, enjoyed, and had a good time, regardless of the results.
They did us proud anyway. They did us proud.
Did us proud, and I'm sure there'll be another time to look forward to, and we'll back the boys all the way.
Yeah, I'm not, to be honest. Like as I said before, I'm a bit pessimistic. I'm a bit worried's the right word. I am. I don't like to be. I never like to be negative about anything. I'm just looking at it.
It's just realistic, though. I think it's not necessarily negative. Our golden generation, if you like, a lot of them are at the end. I think that's fair to say. And as much as we have got some new, exciting young players coming through, there's probably only really enough to like fill a first team, and you haven't got a quality person like Bale there, like that outstanding world-class guy coming through. And then if any of these first team guys are injured, it's the people behind that we haven't got the depth that other teams have.
There's no, there's no depth, but there was also like, you know, like when young players come on the pitch and like they have no fear, like they're scared. That is, I don't feel like the young Welsh players that came on or whatever, that I don't feel like they have that feeling. It's a weird thing to say. I don't like, even with that Johnson lad who was on yesterday. He's like, you looked at him and he just didn't look. He didn't have the juice, like and that's why
Ollie Cooper should have been there.
Yeah, Ollie Cooper should have been there, 100%. And that's why I think that's the manager's job, though, to create that self-belief in the players.
Yeah.
And to make, you know, it's like to make them feel invincible when they go on the field. That's like what he has to do. And I don't know, it just seems like
it's not happening with him at the moment.
Yeah, but it's a funny one, because I just think that we might be headed back into some dark days for Welsh football, to be honest.
Well, let's hope not, and we'll continue to back them. But we'll see
absolutely.
where it goes.
I'll be standing there in my bucket hat, screaming the national anthem as loud as anyone. But like, like you said, Bale is irreplaceable. I mean, he's a freak. There's never been anything else like him in British football ever, and I can't see there being anything else like him ever again, can there, really? But there's so it's completely irreplaceable, that aspect of it. And if you think about it, I mean, Team Gareth Bale in it is a funny chant. It was something else. It's like some sort of alien transported down from Mars, just like faster than everyone else, stronger than everyone. Just bad.
Very, and I'm just glad that we got to see him, I guess, and pull the Welsh jersey on. Like, you talk about Ryan Giggs and whatever, but for me, Bale he's going to go down as the best Welsh player, and he's the one that's got us to the tournaments. He's done the business. We've done success. You know, even though we weren't that successful this time, the Euros, especially 2016, getting to the semis, all comes from him. I think he's kind of pushed the team on. Having a good period of time where we were relatively successful.
Yeah, relatively great. Yeah, exactly. He gave us something to share about, and he the passion and the way he always turned up for Wales is inspiring to so many people wanting to play football for Wales. Exactly. We've never seen that attitude before.
But you never know. Some of the next crop is going to come through. You know, the youngsters that might have been watching him that we don't know about yet. Maybe there'll be some special talent that we will see in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Maybe you can put your boots back on.
Yeah, I will. I'll be there, mate.
Yeah.
Be there. Gosh, can you imagine it? It'll be devastatingly bad, I think, now.
Well, do you know what? This has been, I think, that's a good time to end. We're nearly in 2 hours there, so it's been a fantastic conversation. I've loved having you on.
Mate, pleasure.
I'm sure we'll have you on again if you've enjoyed. So,
mate, I've
definitely have you back.
So much for having me. It's been such a cool experience.
That's all right. I'll do the end now for the podcast, and then if you just stay here, we'll have a quick goodbye proper after I've ended recording. But for everyone listening, thank you very much for watching. I'm sure to say thank you to Jack for coming on. You can go and check out his music. The band is called Trampolene. I'll just put this little banner back up. So the new album coming out in March next year, March 16th. They have a new single out, Thinking Again. Am I right in saying you've had another one out since that one?
Yeah, we literally had one out last Friday. Sort Me Out.
Okay, there we are. So there's 2 new songs to go listen to from the new album that will be coming out next year. And then if you're interested, there is also a tour in April where you can go and see Jack playing his music and speaking his poems as well. Maybe there'll be some new poem about Swans Cast.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be the new album as well. Swans Cast.
Go for it. But yeah, thank you very much for coming on. Really, really enjoyed. And for everyone, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments about what we spoke about, your views and everything we touched on. Maybe you can tell us if you've heard or seen Trampolene playing live. That would be interesting to see if anyone's gone to any of your gigs. Were you there at the arena when they opened the arena? Or perhaps Radio 1's big weekend? You did that as well, didn't you, in Singleton Park? So
yeah, we did.
Did you see them there? And look forward to reading. We shall catch you on the next podcast. So thank you very much again, Jack.
Thank you, my pleasure. Mwah.